Tutorials. Every game has some form of them. They could be that level that pops up at the very first boot up, or it could be the very first act in a 40-hour adventure. But excellence in this field is rarely recognized. So let's change that today by looking at the excellence of Mecha BREAK's tutorials, and why I think it stands head and shoulders above others in the hero shooter genre. But before we go yapping on about why Mecha BREAK's tutorials are so good, what makes a tutorial good in the first place? Most folk on both sides of games, players and devs, often overlook the tutorial, or at least give it less attention than every other aspect of the game. However, it is a very important part on onboarding someone new to the experience. You need to cover a baseline, of course, giving a basic understanding of what the controls are, which nearly every game provides. It's the how to breathe level, as it were. However, depending on the game, there needs to be more tutorialization to explore other aspects, and this is where games vary more in quality. Some stick to the same approach for all additions new to their game, dumping it all at the start. Others take a more breadcrumb approach, spraying more tutorials throughout the experience and bringing them up as needed when the game gets more complex. Finally, and most relevant to this video, you have supplementary tutorials that a player can access at their leisure. All of these separate styles have their merits and use cases. It'd be foolish to dismiss any one style due to pursuing perfection. The important part is utilizing the right style for your game, and that's something that I think Mecha BREAK has done exceedingly well compared to others in its genre. There are, currently, 15 different mechs available for play. While they all share the basic controls, they also all have different kits and weight classes that dictate their gameplay style. Now this sounds pretty standard for a hero shooter, yet most of these shooters don't really teach you how to pilot your selected hero. Overwatch is a prime example. You get the standard here's how to breathe tutorial as Soldier 76, and then you get the practice range in bot matches. Now here's where I would have said full stop, but there's also the hero mastery courses, which sounds promising. Yet to be perfectly honest, they don't do much in fostering new player skills beyond what is already expected. They don't have them for the full rosters, and these are mostly just glorified time trials. They don't force you to learn new techniques or to excel in a certain hero. It's just average. This means you have to go out and find information in the community and practice on your own to really understand your hero. Meanwhile, Mecha BREAK has all of that, plus a supplementary set of tutorials for each individual striker, all going through a piece of their kit and their applications in a handheld manner. Most people would have something negative to say about that, but with how mechanically intensive the gameplay is, I think it's highly valuable to have the game sit you through the uses of each striker's kit, as it ensures the player has intimate knowledge of how their ability works, meaning anyone who does these tutorials should be at least familiar with every single striker. As for practicing the kit itself, the base tutorials fall a little short, but they're immediately followed up with the striker challenges. After a player completes the striker's base tutorials, their challenges unlock, dangling a fancy little title to entice players into applying what they've learned about their striker. This is a fantastic way to get players to want to continue learning, as it provides a reward that the average player would want to show off. What easier way to tell people that you like playing a certain striker than with a title you've gotten from beating their challenges? More importantly though, these challenges provide the player a controlled environment to test their piloting skills, something that a basic shooting range or practice feature can't really offer. These challenges focus on developing skills that will improve a player's experience. A prime example is Panther Challenge 1, which provides a time trial where they have to navigate through the air, using melee attacks to maintain their momentum while using their auxiliary to keep their energy from hitting zero. This is a skill invaluable for Panther players to learn, as it is needed for them to keep up with aerial and mobile threats like Aquila and Lumine. Even if it does not make the player perfect the skill, it introduces the concept and ingrains it in the player's knowledge, so they know to practice it early on. Another note though, is that these challenges are challenges. A majority of these scenarios put the player in hard situations, forcing them to adapt to the circumstances and potentially discover new techniques. Tricera Challenge 5 is a great example of this. It forces the player to make the best use of the shield's parry function to survive and push the cart. Most new Triceras would stay in turret mode the entire time, melee threat or no, so by creating a scenario where they have to leave it and re-enter it forces the player to develop this technique. While some of these scenarios will never happen in a proper match, they all focus on teaching and practicing skills that will benefit the player, and it doesn't just stop there. What if I told you these challenges teach you much more than just what you can do as a pilot, but also about additional strikers and playing against them? That's right, folks. It's not only your striker you learn about intimately through these challenges, they also showcase important knowledge about a few other strikers. A number of these challenges rely on the unique traits of these strikers to force the player to adapt and use the strengths of their own striker to overcome them. An easy example of this is Tricera in the Elusiveness Challenge 3, where the player needs to exploit the top using the mobility of the unarmored form. Not only does this teach the player to be aggressive when out of armor, it also exemplifies one of the critical weaknesses of Tricera, effectively introducing counterplay ideas to the player. It is really important that this is highlighted, as most other games very heavily rely on the community to sort this stuff out for each other. It also does a lot for matchup knowledge. With Hurricane Challenge 4 as an example, the player must fend off a Welkin and Panther with the parry function of the shield drone. Not only is it teaching the player the importance of kiting as Hurricane, it also demonstrates how melees are the natural predator of a Hurricane and how important that parry function is for keeping them alive and in the fight. They even show off what it looks like to be hit with certain abilities, like Welkin's Flash Drone and Serenith's Lock-On Jammer, meaning not only does the player know how disruptive these abilities are firsthand, but they also get a sense of how they're meant to be worked around, or deal with these hindrances. Regardless of the extra effort spent on making these challenges, CSUN saw fit to cut no corners in delivering a truly informative experience based on around the striker units. Whatever struggles players experience outside of it is up to them. At the end of it all, there's one constant chaotic element that even the greatest tutorials cannot stop, and that is the player. There's nothing stopping us goobers from oogling at Falcon and slamming the Q button to go 0-8 Verge, but ourselves. But in spite of that fact, CSUN elected to set a new bar for hero shooter tutorials that I hope is continued as the genre ages. It is a smart decision in the long run to have a solid onboarding experience, and I hope the effort translates into making Mecha BREAK live a long and healthy life. And that's a wrap. I hope you found this video interesting and entertaining. I'm doing my best to create quality long-form videos once a month, alongside highlight reels of my live shenanigans on Twitch. If you had a good time watching this video, I humbly ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great one.